Good evening, family. It's Saturday, September 11th. Hope your day today is filled with quiet reflection on the importance of today. My September 11th was spent how any good Coast Guardsman should be spent, guarding against terrorists. However, after I was done guarding against terrorists, I did get a chance to do a little bit of snorkeling as well, test out my new camera enclosure.
Now, unfortunately, this wasn't the best conditions to go snorkeling or diving. A storm had just passed through immediately prior to this, so while the shallow areas were clear, visibility was horrible, and since there was still a lot of clouds in the sky, there wasn't a whole lot of sunlight making it through. However, we still had a little bit of fun going down there. Hopefully this new enclosure comes with a light, so it helps to correct some of the color deficiencies you'll see here. This enclosure I'm using now is just a temporary one, borrowing from a friend until mine actually gets in. The enclosure here was kind of difficult to use because had about 7 pounds of positive buoyancy, so you try and take it under and immediately try and pop you back up onto the surface. These videos were taken by Gab Gab, which is popular for all the snorkelers and scuba divers, because you don't need a boat to get down to where the reef drops off. It drops off pretty sharply, and there's a nice cliff wall that you saw earlier covered in coral. But there's definitely lots of fish, even some sea turtles hang around here quite often. It's actually located on the Navy base, and you need a military ID to get there, which doesn't prevent it from being crowded just the same, though. What I like about this shot is that sea cucumber was almost entirely without strings when I turned on the camera. It shot it all out as I was watching.
One of the things I reflected on today is what I was doing on September 11th. When I first heard about the attacks on the Twin Towers, I was in the middle of Spanish class. And you turn on the news, watch for a little bit, and then right before the second plane hit the towers, the period switched, and I went to chemistry. Now, if you know anything about my chemistry teacher in high school, you'll know that we didn't spend that period watching the news or doing anything else. We spent it doing chemistry. In a lot of ways, I can really respect that. Now, in her defense, she didn't know the scope of the activities that had occurred. It's also emblematic of her character. She's so focused on teaching and being probably the best teacher I had in high school. She wasn't going to let outside distractions interrupt the importance of learning. Of course, you compare and contrast that to our history teacher that we had, where we spent the entire period trying to go over the history of the Middle East, which is not something you can cram into a 50-minute class. One of the things I remember specifically about that day is that they canceled all after-school activities. That was one of the few days that I didn't stay after for swim practice. And I remember thinking on the bus ride home why they did that. I mean, it wasn't like they were going to attack Seminole High School in the middle of... I realize now the sheer scope of what happened on that day and the sheer number of people that were affected directly and indirectly. When we talked about September 11th at the Academy, there were so many people with personal stories of people, partially because a large portion of the Academy came from the central northeast around New York, but even people from as far away as California were directly impacted by these events. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you again soon.